noises!
Welcome to the Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Mica Burton.
The release of the Nintendo Switch is still months away, sadly, but some interesting details are leaking out about its specs and capabilities. Well, new leaks about its specs and capabilities, including a report that it might be significantly less powerful than we first thought.
Plus, we've got a whole new batch of patents for the console, which indicate Nintendo plans on transforming it into a VR headset.
Now, we've always assumed that the Switch would be, well, maybe not as powerful as the PS4, or at least not as powerful as the PS4 Pro, depending on which leak you're looking at, but GameSpeed just released a report that it'll be severely underpowered, with barely a teraflop of performance. Citing multiple unidentified sources, GameSpeed claims this difference in power comes from Switch using NVIDIA's older Maxwell graphics processing architecture, rather than the newer Pascal architecture, which many have assumed to be used by Nintendo.
GamesBeat writer Dean Takahashi said that the Pascal won't be ready for the Tegra chip that's going to be used in the Switch. That's important because it means that the Switch already could be behind the 8 ball when it comes to the latest version of graphics technology. While the Switch's custom Maxwell Tegra is powerful enough to play the more cartoony Nintendo-style games, it won't come close to matching the high-end PS4 game.
Of course, that should surprise no one. After all, the Switch is portable, and no one really expects a portable system to be able to match the PS4 or the Xbox. I mean, for God's sake. Okay, so the Vita looks great, but look at 3DS.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but a powerhouse, it is not.
It is not.
But Nintendo has definitely implied that the Switch could handle more realistic games. Remember Skyrim being in the trailer? We know it's not current gen, but for Nintendo, Skyrim's inclusion seemed like a nod that the Switch would be beefier than its predecessors.
The GamesBeat article suggested that timing played a factor into Nintendo using a Maxwell chip instead of Pascal. Let's face it, the Wii U has been a dud, and Nintendo wants to replace the Wii U as soon as possible, so it didn't have enough time to wait for the Pascal version of the Tegra chip to come out. It also didn't want competitors to catch up. So the last thing Nintendo wants is another Wii U situation on its hands, spending years developing a tablet-like controller, only to introduce it after everyone has been using iPads for 2 years, no one cares, and then it's a giant flop and now they're discontinuing it.
Well, we should let Nintendo know that tablets are a thing. It should be noted that this is not set in stone. Plenty of other rumors have said that Nintendo Switch will include the Pascal Tegra chip instead of the older Maxwell version. So keep hope alive, at least until January.
We're not really sure yet. But okay, chip versions aside, how will the Switch stack up to the PS4? Obviously, we won't know for sure until next month when Nintendo hosts the full media presentation in Japan.
GameSpeed expects that the Switch will be around 1 teraflop in performance compared to the PS4's 1.8 teraflops, which would be a pretty huge gap in terms of power. While it may not have all the flops to be able to do the really crazy realistic stuff, that's not really Nintendo's bag anyway. So it's worth considering.
Yeah. There's some hints out there already as to what the Switch might be capable of. Digital Foundry did some tests on the Tegra X1 Maxwell chip that was used in the Switch dev kits and is used in NVIDIA's Shield console.
Now, in a video on YouTube in July, Digital Foundry said that the Tegra X1 is more capable than the Wii U, but not up to the performance of the PS4 or Xbox One. In a test, they ran Doom 3 BFG edition on the Shield Android TV using the chip and found it to be faster than the PS3 or Xbox 360 versions at 60 frames per second with fewer frame drops.
Digital Foundry called the Tegra X1 chip a turbo-powered last-gen console.
Oh, last gen. How nice.
That's awkward.
But like we said, this isn't exactly new for Nintendo. The company's been releasing comparatively underpowered consoles for years now, focusing more on different gameplay experiences rather than the latest hardware. If you recall, the Wii didn't even do HD.
John Petty, an analyst, told GamesBeat that there's no point in comparing Nintendo with Sony and Microsoft. That's basically apples and oranges.
He said Nintendo has a niche in the affordable, accessible product, and performance is never a leading criteria for them. It is gameplay and immersion. They are never a technology pioneer. Trying to compare Nintendo to Sony is like comparing a Volkswagen to a Corvette.
But even if the Switch isn't using Pascal architecture for its GPU, the Tegra chip could just help the Switch evolve just like the PS4 and PS4 Pro did. According to the well-regarded Japanese journalist Nishikawa Zenji, that means that Nintendo could easily release updated hardware versions with the Pascal architecture in the future, similar to how it has continuously updated its 3DS line, or how PS4 and Xbox are coming out with beefier systems to keep up with the times.
For his part though, Zenji says the custom Tegra chip is based on Pascal technology, not Maxwell. So again, conflicting reports.
It's also worth noting that Takahashi has been wrong before about the Switch's hardware. Last year, he reported that AMD would be building Nintendo's processor, when obviously that company went with NVIDIA.
Still, Switch will basically be using mobile device hardware, so it's fair to compare them more to mobile devices.
Earlier this year, ARM, which designs mobile chip architecture, dropped a bombshell prediction for what smartphones and tablets will soon be capable of. The company said in a conference in Amsterdam that the chip it creates will generate graphics that will surpass the PS4 and Xbox One by the end of 2017.
Does that mean that mobile will already have surpassed the Switch by next year? Possibly yes.
But that also means that mobile VR could become more of a possibility as the chips grow more powerful, which is kind of cool.
That's true. And speaking of VR, Nintendo has applied for some patents related to the Switch that could involve some VR capabilities down the road.
An intrepid poster on NeoGAF found several patents filed by Nintendo for the Switch, ranging from its detachable controllers to an interesting diagram showing the Switch's tablets fitting into a possible VR headset. According to a diagram, the tablet portion of the Switch would slide into a head-mounted display similar to the Samsung Gear that is attached by a headband. Presumably, the user would use the Joy-Cons as Wiimotes to direct the action. And holy shit, that sounds really
It's an interesting idea. The headset might look a little bit silly, but what VR headset doesn't?
Exactly.
Other patent diagrams are pretty extensive when it comes to the Switch's variety of capabilities. Nintendo is seeking patents for how the Joy-Cons attach to the screen, how they attach to form a standalone controller, and pretty much everything else you can think of. It's clear that Nintendo views its Switch as a unique device and is trying to get as much protection as possible for it, because remember, they don't want to get copied.
It's true. VR would seem like a stretch for Nintendo, considering that its execs have been pretty non-committal about the technology. Nintendo's in-house legend Shigeru Miyamoto told The Verge that he's interested in the technology, but said that it would be difficult to bring it to market in a way that reaches the broadest audience.
But while we're on the subject of Switch being underpowered, how the world is going to pull off VR in that case?
Look at the PlayStation VR. It's been knocked by some critics for already feeling dated, and that's using hardware that's far more powerful than the Switch. Kotaku said the PlayStation VR was frustratingly held back by outdated hardware that can't quite do what it's being asked of it.
That said, everyone loves Gear VR. Gear VR is selling far more than any of the high-end options. So at some point, I think we just have to acknowledge that mainstream consumers don't necessarily care about a premium experience, they just care about having the experience. So we'll see. It doesn't bode well for any kind of Nintendo Switch VR to be underpowered potentially by next year, but who knows? Maybe Nintendo's already working on a Switch Pro or a Switch Scorpio.
Switch Scorpio, just mashing the best of both worlds together.
All the flops.
So what do you think of the Nintendo Switch? Just another underpowered console, or does its portability entice you into buying one?
Yes. And for all Nintendo news, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Know.
Well, the Switch is custom.
Fuck you!
Why?
Told you, dead. Somebody died.
While the Switch is custom.
Well, we have an end card.
Yep. While the Switch is custom. Okay, I thought I heard.